Hello, everyone. What's this doing here? This is Jimmy Cultist, back again with another tutorial concerning logic in dreams. Today we're going to be doing a grapple. A specific kind of grapple. I'm heavily basing it off the Hookshot from the Legend of Zelda series. But to start with, I have created this grapple sculpt. It's made up of 3 groups. The first group is the base, and the second group is the spearhead and the chain, which I shrunk down to be very tiny. It's a very thermo-effective way of making an extending chain. You could also do it in segments and have it extend, you know, have them become visible as it extends, but that's a lot of work. I thought it would be easier to shrink it down. Now, looking at our tiny chain here, it itself is also a group of 10 segments. And I put a little red marker to tell where they connect. But I sculpted the complete length of the chain before shrinking it down. I just want to go over this real quick, in case you're wondering how I did that. And this keyframe extends it to its full, actual size before I shrank it. And that's the approximate length. So yeah, if you want to judge how far your thing is going to go, you can sculpt it beforehand and then just set up this little animation. And when you copy this out, it'll come with that animation and you can always access it from here. And if you live clone it, you can alter the details, once you connect it to the puppet. Speaking of the puppet, we're going to need the puppet. I have the prototype in the background, just in case I need to consult any of the details. I doubt I will need it, but just in case. Alright, let's get the base settings. 25% acceleration and deceleration. Walkable slope angle 90%. Motion sensor movement 0. Auto look 0. Well, off, I should say. And we should be all ready to go. Now that we've copied this out, all we have to do is drag it over here. And we could just group it with the puppet's hands. I might shrink the hands just a little bit. Looks more proper somehow. But it's not necessary. And we're going to go over here and check our animation that we have on this keyframe. Just press X on it, and as you can see, fully extended. Alright then. Now for our next part, we're going to need a sculpt. I have already made one previously. It's just a simple blue brick with a cylindrical pole sticking out of it. It goes about here at shoulder length, I'd say. Make sure it's set to clip mirror. You can also use grid snap, that helps, and stamp shape. Anyway, let's get this on the road. This is going to act as a mount for our camera and aiming logic. And we want it roughly the same length, I think, as the other one. It's not hyper necessary, though. Oh, and go ahead and you can turn off luminoise, it's not necessary. Turn off collisions and visibility. I also turn off physics and gravity and density down to 0%, but that's just me. Alright, first we're going to want a camera, like so. I'm going to connect a node to it. Make it dark purple. Maybe purpley blue, similar to the camera itself. And next we are going to want a teleporter labeled hook mount. You could call it anything, just so long as you remember what it's called and you have the capitalization and everything right. Match target orientation. And we're gonna grab this little, if we've opened the tweak menu, that's L1 and square to open it, and circle and L1 to close it. L1 and circle. Anyway, when it's open you can adjust this little thing which controls the position. I might just move our camera out of there just a little bit because we aren't going to want it in the center there where it could be messed with. Yeah, that's about the right position. Just make sure it's facing, you know, correct angles. Then we're going to have a little, what do you call it? Microchip. And we're going to label this con for controls. I'm going to copy out that keyframe, only make it, not keyframe, node. Copy out the node. Make it red. Then we're going to copy out another node. Then we're going to take out a NOT gate. Connect it to the power. Take out a timeline. Connect the node to the power of the timeline, set it to play once. Gonna put down a switch on the timeline, which will control how long before we can, you know, press this button again. It basically delays the input, so if you press the button, it won't let you, you know, turn the timeline on again, whether you hold down the button or not, until the duration has finished playing. Anyway, we're also going to want a little tiny switch, but we can just copy this. This little switch we're going to make blue and hook it up to the red keyframe. Then we're going to hook up a button to our node, which if we go in here to controller logic, we'll get access to the controller sensor. Before we do that, though, I'm going to delete the ability to depossess the puppet, which is connected here from the circle button. And I'm going to turn on forced possession, just to save time. And now we'll go to R1, which I've chosen as the firing button for our grapple. We're going to aim it with L1, but we'll get to that later. I think that's good enough. Alright. Next, we're going to want a node, like so. And we are going to make it blue. Then we will want another normal colored node. Also, let's move this down a little bit because we're going to need space later. Connect the blue node to the power of this node. And connect this red node to the blue node's input. This is very important. Alright. What do we do next? Oh yes, we'll want the camera logic in advance. That's going to help us aim this. And I am of course going to be cannibalizing MM's first person camera logic just because I really like it. And it has a lot of presets that are difficult to get on your own, so I would advise just taking this out, opening up the logic, and hoisting this Also, I might do one other thing. I want to create a secondary chip, which we will call Cam Logic. Open it up, put the camera controls on the inside. And now that we're done with this fellow and he's served his purpose, we'll go ahead and... Oops, I guess we were scoped in. We're going to have to scope in to delete him. There we go. Scoping in is just L1 and X, in case you're wondering. Alright, this is all the stuff we're going to need. But before we get to that, we're going to hook up our ability to, aim. B output connected to camera controls. Another thing I want to do is stick a NOT gate inside the camera controls, and we're going to take the output and connect it to this camera. We're also going to face the camera a different direction, because I figure we're going to need this later. It may need adjustment, of course. But let's get back to our little input here. Take out a NOT gate, connect the node, connect the NOT gate to A, connect the node to B. And then we go to L1, which is going to be our aim button. You could even call this aim if you wanted to. But what this does is when we press the button, it will automatically select B. When we release the button, it will automatically default to A. Next, we're going to go into parameters, because we will be needing this. And we're just going to control some of the puppet settings. We're also going to turn off these animations. So, starting with lean into strength will be 0%. Bounciness will be 0%. Lean leg 0%. Sassiness 0%. Sway 0%. Limbiness 0%. Arm vigor 0%. Arm flail 0%. Those are the things we're going to want to alter. And this will make the puppet, it'll make it control smoother when we're aiming. Make it less bouncy and jittery. We're going to call this parameter. Or just parameters, as English-speaking people say. And we will want it to be on, so just leave it in there and leave it looped. I'm kind of weirded out. Why is it like throbbing? Okay, well, whatever that is, it's over. I was a bit worried we were going to have a glitch. Alright. Next, we're going to need to connect right stick local to this. And as it happens, we can access the right stick. This is just normal right stick. We'll want the local one, which is here. Connect it right there. Oh, we're also going to want a little tag for our mount that we created earlier to attract to. You may recall we labeled the teleporter hook mount. Well, this is what it's going to be connected to. It's going to follow this tag. So we'll put it up there like so, and we'll probably want to use grid snap to turn Y upright and Z facing forward. And we'll just put it in there real quick. We'll experiment a little bit with this, get the right position. Is it just me, or is the camera facing slightly away? Yeah, there appears to be some kind of little bit of dissonance between how our tag is facing and how this thing is facing. Oh well, it's probably not a big deal. It's slightly concerning, but I'm not sure why it's happening. Oh, it'll just autocorrect. Okay, it's not a big deal. Anyway, hook mount we can leave active all the time. What do we do next? Oh yeah, we will want to control the camera pitch. First things first, we're going to pitch the hook mount up like so. Just open up this thing, either select it or open up its tweak menu and you can mess around with this. We're going to turn the puppet's head back to go along with the change in position. We're also going to temporarily hook this NOT gate up because we want to keep this fully powered while we're testing. I want to test the position of the camera. We want the arm to roughly align with the camera in this situation, so... Oh, and turn off puppet mirror. You won't be needing that. But just so long as our little grappling hook is centered properly. It appears to be. Maybe swing it out just a little bit. Comes in handy having precise move. Alright. That is stellar, I believe. Now let's go for the pitch downward, and again we're going to be selecting this tag and pitching it down. I don't think you should have it too down, because really grappling down is kind of weird. It's not a common thing that you really need to do. But it'll make the thing, you know, more balanced if you do this. Just don't, you know, tip it too far down. Alright, I think I might slightly, just a little skew to the... Yeah, that's probably it. Oops. My controller is just a tiny bit suspect. And we can bend the head down to, you know, kind of make it look like we're leaning into this. And it'll balance perfectly in the middle, which is exactly what we want. Now we can delete this. And what's next on the docket for today? Oh yeah, we will want to hook up the... we will want a keyframe, or not a keyframe, but a one of these diggly-doo long timelines. That's what it is. Just stick that right there. We might put it in a chip for cleanliness. And we're going to make it red. We're going to need this later. And we're going to call it hit. But we'll get back to it in due time. I just want it there for later. Next thing we're going to want is a little item like this, which is basically just a sculpt. It is invisible and non-collidable, and I would probably set it to low density and ignore gravity. And we put a little chip on it called contact, and in here we have the following logic. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on now because I powered it off earlier. It wouldn't normally be powered off. And we put down a follower, which has no label, but it has a speed of 542, maximum strength, and maximum overall dampening. And a little tag called contact P. I might turn Z, it's not really necessary, but you could turn Z to face this way. It wouldn't hurt. And I turned off the power beforehand, which is exactly what we're going to want. So, yeah, keep that. Now, this is not a part of the tutorial, but I'm going to go ahead and delete this. That's from a previous prototype. It's just an animation wire. I'll be showing you how to wire that up yourself later. Anyway, that's what we're going to want, and this is going to act as a wayfinder for where we're aiming. Like, you know, we hit that particular area, it's going to react. So, what are we going to need next? Oh yes, the tools of our trade. These little things that we call laser scopes. We can use grid snap to flip it down. Oh, by the way, one other thing. Since this is not visible, if you go to... oh, wait a minute. Better show you again. Go to Tools, and go to Adjust Detail, and if you have it on Reduce Detail, which you can switch with triangle if you want to increase detail, but since this isn't visible, I highly advise reducing the detail as much as possible. Anyway, now that that's over, we're going to put this forward like so, and the exact length of the grappling hook I already know, but you could experiment for yourself. You know, you could measure the full length and find out how long it is, but it's approximately 10.1. Oop. Careful. Always press done at the end. R2. 10.1 though should be the exact length of our grappling hook based off of my calculations. One thing we are going to want to do though is, real quick, we're going to turn on this chip. We don't want the grappling hook itself interrupting our line of sight. So I'm going to move it ever so slightly forward to where it doesn't get in the way. There we go. I also might center it a little bit more, because it is kind of slightly off-center. That should do nicely. Alright, let's go into the settings. We want it to only detect... Let's check my notes. Scenery and machine, although you could make this any two tags. Scenery is what I label all assets in the scene that are non-interactable, like walls and such, and occasionally I'll label like certain things that are special, like weapon or missile or target. In this case we're going to label it machine though. We're also going to turn off X-ray mode, and we're going to turn this on, which basically makes it so that it detects things that are non-collidable and collidable, but it will not detect things that are invisible. So that's good. Another thing we're going to want to do is connect this red output to the power of our little laser scope here. We can move it down slightly. Then we are going to take out a calculator, which is going to judge and compute the distance in order to restrain how far our grappling hook goes. Like if we hit a wall, it's going to only go as far as the wall and not its full animated length. And for this, we're going to use a calculator set to divide. And the exact number that it divides by can vary a bit. I think on the last one I chose to divide by 11. But it's really something that can kind of vary depending on the situation. But we're going to go ahead and, you know, connect this to A. We're also going to go inside this little fellow here and take his hit distance and connect it to A, which will make more sense later. Then we're going to take out a timeline and connect the result of our calculator to this little thing here, which is called a playhead. We're going to need our completed animation, which we handily have prepared. Just copy it out, stick it right here. I don't think the exact length really matters. I don't know. It can be adjusted. If you need to pull the timeline in and out with X, it can be done. Alright, make sure it's set to sustain, and we're going to have a little red switch on here. And we're going to make it red so that it's very, standoutish. I'm just going to switch this off. Naturally, we're going to want it off. Alright. So this is the full animation. Just checking to make sure that it's working properly. Alright. Now, what are we going to do next? Close this. Oh yes, we're going to need another laser scope. We're just going to copy it, of course, this time. And we are going to connect hit distance to that node. It does get a bit confusing, but it's worth it. Next, we're going to take out a keyframe. And all this keyframe is going to do is, firstly, it's going to tap on this switch. And it's also going to change the color of our reticule. We haven't really messed around with the reticule. I want to make it larger so that we can see it better. But we're going to turn the reticule red, I think, just to show when we're on target. And we're going to connect hit something to the keyframe. And basically this is what's going to trigger when we actually hit our target. And our only target in this case is going to be machine. I'm going to double check this though, just to make sure. Yep, it's machine. And it's only going to be collidable. So, that should do nicely. There is going to be one other little thing, which is if we go in here, we'll see hit position. We're going to open up our little contact cube here and connect hit position to the follower's target position input. Output to input. The secret of dreams. Anyway, put this down here. Now, what else do we need to do? I think we're pretty close to testing out our little firing, mechanism. I'm gonna check my notes real quick. Oh, we are going to need the actual firing, turned on. We're also going to delete that because we don't need that anymore. Here in hit is where the magic goes down. Also, if you may recall that we connected this little fellow here, we're going to go ahead and stick it right in that node, and that's going to act as our first thingamajig. Then we're going to need a follower. Make it about this long. It could be adjusted if you have to change it. Again, with R2 you can drag and change it. The speed should be about 25.0. That should do nicely, and it only follows contact P, which stands for contact point, in case you didn't know. That's this little tag here, which is on our fellow wayfinder, or whatever you want to call it. I think that's pretty much all we're going to need to do. One little thing is we're going to have to move this out, because when you grapple, you're going to hit this thing at high velocity, and if your puppet slams into it, it'd be better to have the position in front of him rather than in him, otherwise he'll just jam into the brick, and you don't really want that. Like if he's grappling into an object, you don't want him slamming into the object too quickly, so set it in front of him a little bit. That way there's a buffer zone. Now, what is next? Oh yes. We're going to put down a camera because there will be need of a camera. Basically, when you're flying through the air, you want something to, you know, kind of keep your puppet, keep the eye on him, so to speak. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Stick out our little camera there. Set it to cut, so it's an instant transition. Well, that might not be necessary. We could set it to smooth. Just have the transition time very low. No, wait a minute, cut. I think it will be good for cut because we're transitioning from another camera, so we want it as fast as possible, very snappy, very quick. Next, we're going to take out a little action recorder. Make sure it's set to keyframe mode. And we're going to turn off this, which allows our puppet to move. And these, because we won't want any animations interrupting our puppet. That includes these, which are procedural animations, like his feet and such, so we'll want those off. And one other little handy thing is we're going to turn off this follower, because we want this wayfinder, when it's found its target and when we fired, to stay in place. Then we want the tag to become active, so that this will attract to the position we last pointed the wayfinder. And if this is set to loop, we can extend the duration. All right. Oh, there's one other thing. We're going to turn off this here. We don't want you to have the ability to aim while, you know, shooting. Like, once you've fired, it's over. And I think that might be... Wait a minute. There's one other thing. I just remembered. Turn off this. That way we can't reactivate the process too prematurely, shall we say. Now, we might also have a tiny animation for our little puppet man. Yeah, just stick this up here. But we'll, like, have a shooting forward. And you may be wondering, like, how will this work when he's aiming upward? Well, the answer is it just kind of works, but you could probably do this better. There's another method that you could potentially utilize that would make this even smoother. I personally, though, favor this method because it's more thermo-effective. But basically, it'll just look like he's flying forward, and it works relatively well, even with targets that are above. But alternatively, what you could do is if you go back to camera controls, you could have a set of separate keyframes that only play, you know, like you could basically copy these out and turn off the power, and basically that would be his launch animation, and they would only be active during this process of firing, and that would potentially make him, you know, point in the right direction. But it actually works quite well just having him point forward, since you don't tend to grapple things in really excruciatingly, you know, straight up or straight down, not going to happen, so it works for the most part, and it's fairly thermo-efficient, which is the main thing. Now for the second keyframe, I think we're going to alter his position a little bit. I want him to be more like he's, you know, pried up against the wall. Yeah, that should do nicely. And I think that just might be everything. We are going to have to test it, of course, and make sure that it all works properly, because, you know, even with the best laid plans, mistakes can occur. Let's go ahead and see how it works. We also might need to realign the camera. Yes, we're going to have to realign the camera. As you can see though, our hookshot, or grapple, or whatever you want to call it, it does collide with the wall. It can go much further, as you can see here, if it's in range, of course. Our range is a little befuddled, and we are going to have to move our camera so that it's a little bit more aligned with what we're aiming at. Move it again. I think that might do it. Let's take a look. Let's turn down the opacity of the reticle just a little bit. That way we can see better. And we're going to go ahead and turn it on full when we've actually, found the target. So just go in here real quick, turn up the opacity to full on the keyframe. That seems to work nicely. Also, you can see our movement's quite good. Very steady, not too much wiggle. A little wiggle's okay. And it does glow red when it collides with something properly labeled as machine that is collidable. It doesn't have to be. I think we could actually do it without that. We'll see. Now, there does seem to be a little bit of disparity between our laser scope and the camera, which is worrying. So, one thing you can do to recalibrate it is just make this thing temporarily visible. This will show us, exactly where the target point should be. So, we can just take our camera and readjust it to follow our wayfinder exactly, so we're going to get a more precise angle. And let's go ahead and make it invisible. And we're going to see if everything's working as it should. Hopefully. We're attracting to our object. I am a little confused as to why our animation doesn't seem to be playing. That's weird. Oh, I think I know what it is. I think somehow we overwrote our first... Overwrote? Is that a word? I've heard of overridden. We overrided? Overwrote. I don't know if that's a word. Whatever. Who cares? It looks to me like we overwrote our first... The leg movement's a bit much. Let's kind of make it a little bit more reserved. And that should kind of, make it work better, I think. And as you can see, the grapple works. It even works up in the air pretty good. Now there is a slight issue where you may have noticed that it's kind of obvious that the grapple, when you're coming in, it looks kind of awkward. The chain and all that. But I would just go in here and make it invisible temporarily during that first bout. That might help eliminate some of the awkward looks. See? You don't really notice too much that it's not quite lining up, once you're firing. But it's a very thermo-effective way to do a grapple. There are multiple other ways, and there are ways that are simpler. I think this one is the most visually interesting and probably the one I would use in most cases. Plus, I've already developed it, so I have a lot of, we've actually tried to make this video several times before, and it failed. So this is a tried and true method through the fires of hell, as it were. Anyway, we finally got it right. So, hopefully you found that helpful. Here are the names of all of our lovely cult supporters. Many thanks to all of you. If you'd like to get your name in those credits, check the link in the description and head over to our coffee. You can become a cultist neophyte to become credited at the end of our video, or you can become an acolyte to gain early access to videos in addition to credit. Now, if you aren't in the mood for membership, you can always leave a one-time tip. If you enjoyed this video and are not already subscribed, consider hitting the subscribe button down below. And maybe give us a quick like, both options are free. Also, don't forget to ring the notification bell so you will always be notified when new videos come out. If you have any thoughts, questions, or suggestions, leave them in the comments section. Or if you just want to let out your pent-up rage, give us some smack talk. Until next time, goodbye.